With Doom Eternal wrapped up nice and neat, it leaves a lot of questions unanswered, but perhaps most importantly, how will the Slayer escape his tomb? Now just imagine this for a second. The next Doom game opens up with the sounds of demons being shot and their bodies falling to the floor. The Slayer's sigil begins to glow, faintly illuminating the area around you to reveal a similar situation as Doom 2016's opening. Slowly but surely, the tomb begins to open, and as the light shines in, it reveals the Doom Marine from Doom 3 helping you escape. He hands you a shotgun and gestures you to follow him. The Slayer puts on his helmet, and the game begins. If that sounded at all interesting to you, the name is FooSarr, and on this channel I make concepts for games and just so happen to be focusing on Doom at the moment. Consider lending me a hand to grow the channel and its ideas so more people can know about them. With that said and done, this is why the next Doom game needs 2 Slayers. Nobody can say for certain what the next Doom game will hold. It could be level based like Eternal or adapt its gameplay into an open world format. Either way, one thing I would absolutely love to see is the reintroduction of the Doom Marine. In Doom 3, the Marine was relatively slow and focused a lot more on exploration and puzzles rather than constant action. While it works for Doom 3, I don't think the slow pacing would work well in the modern Doom era. So I believe some changes need to be made to his armor to incorporate the dash boosters and also to fit into just the new style and speed, most importantly, of modern Doom combat. With the threats being at an all-time high in the next Doom game, the Marine will also need to have a new set of weapons to rival the Doom Slayers, but it needs to be different enough to warrant multiple playthroughs, assuming that the Doom Marine is playable. Say for example, and for the sake of the video not being hours long, that the Doom Slayer has the exact same weapons in Doom Eternal again. I know, it's boring and this is a concept channel, but it's about the Marine today. The Doom Marine will need something similar to ensure that the demons that they face can both be fought in similar ways, but different enough to make 2 playable characters worth the extra effort. I believe that the Doom Marine should use weapons that are nods or references to past titles or crossovers as an extra layer of polish. The example of the Marine's arsenal I came up with for this concept, and the concepts that reference this video, which you can find linked on screen, goes as such. The triple barrel shotgun. The main iconic weapon of Doom is its super shotgun, but since I want each of the Slayers to be unique, the Marine will get a brand new triple barrel shotgun. It packs twice the punch, and when fired consecutively, it will build up heat, eventually setting demons on fire, thus dealing more damage, obviously. I believe this to be a more interesting spin on the Doom shotguns, and will help distinguish the weapon from anything the Doom Slayer has, whilst adding a touch bit more depth. The machine gun. Arguably the most iconic weapon from Doom 3, the Marine's trusty machine gun will have to return and be a cross between the chain gun and heavy cannon, firing a large caliber bullet at rapid speeds. As you could imagine, it would cause devastation to any demon caught in the crossfire, but unlike the triple barrel shotgun, it will deal less damage over time and begin to slow down the fire rate, giving the player an incentive pretty early on in the game to focus on weapon swapping, which is a huge mechanic in Doom, modern Doom especially. I believe that this mechanic could be seen as a nerf, but if the initial damage is very high, then begins to drop off slowly with overuse, before flatlining at a pretty mediocre level, then we could see this weapon being used to either finish off a fight or start one with an advantage. The Plasma Grapple. The Plasma Grapple will be able to interact with meat hook points, allowing the Marine to be mobile just as the Slayer, but best of all, rip off portions of demons, changing the way that you approach every encounter. Think of it less as a weapon and more of a tool that takes up a weapon slot. It's just as deadly, but gives you more chances to experiment with the world and its unique gameplay. This is based off the ionized plasma levitator from Doom 3, just more deadly and adapted to the modern era of Doom. If you'd like to see how far this weapon concept could be pushed, let me know in the comments, and I'll give you a few ideas that I've had that won't quite fit into this video. The lightning gun. So, everyone who's played Quake knows what the lightning gun is. Probably the lamest name, but the best, most satisfying mechanics. Much like the same weapon from Quake, it would shoot a short-range, low-damage, extremely high fire rate bolt of electricity that would be able to transfer energy through other demons, effectively defeating a large horde of demons at once, slowing their movement speed down as well. This weapon would work identically to its Quake counterpart, however, to balance the weapon it would drain ammo just as rapidly as it deals damage. The Vortex Rifle. It's a weapon reintroduced from Doom 2016's multiplayer, and it would have an extremely slow fire rate, but deal incredible amounts of damage, defeating powerful, armored foes in only a few shots. What would balance this weapon is the low amounts of ammo that it holds, and its slow fire rate. It's essentially like if Doom Eternal's heavy cannon's precision bolt was the entire weapon, except now you can hold down your shots to blast out an AoE burst, similar to the upgrade from the Ancient Gods DLC. This would effectively turn the weapon into an instant rocket, where, when charged, the bullet would instantly reach the target, dealing devastating damage and damaging all the enemies around it, so there is a lot of potential with this weapon. Tesla Coil Launcher. A spin on the typical rocket launcher, this weapon would fire out a Tesla coil trap that will temporarily stun all demons within its radius, opening them up to take extended damage for a short time and then explode, dealing much lower amounts of damage than a regular rocket, but again, giving you greater opportunities to deal more damage by quick swapping to another weapon like the lightning gun, for example. I believe, while yes, a rocket launcher is a staple Doom weapon, changing it to be more of a support tool intended to combo attacks, keeping the affected demons in place, could prove to work as a more interesting idea, again allowing for further experimentation and eventually interesting cooperative play. Tri-Bolt. Based on the same weapon from Quake Champions, the Tri-Bolt would be able to fire out 3 explosive bolts that can stick into surfaces or enemies and detonate after a few seconds. Since the Doom Marine wouldn't have that shoulder cannon that the Doom Slayer has, he must rely on this weapon and its weapon mods to deal similar levels of damage through accessories like grenades. So for this weapon to work, you'd need to be able to disable weapon mods, and with no weapon mod active, this would just be a standard frag grenade type bolt that would stick into surfaces and explode in a large radius, kind of being the Doom Marine's rocket launcher in a sense. Then the 2 weapon mods that you would have to toggle between would be ice grenades that would act the exact same as the Slayers, or siphon grenades, which would deal extremely low damage, but would convert your damage to health that then gets restored back to you. Again, a reference to Doom 2016. The Reaper. Another weapon from Doom 2016's multiplayer, but also featured in Amora by the Demonic Troopers, the Reaper by default will shoot out a 6-round burst of Hell energy, but can also be held down to fire out a large burst of Hell energy, acting similarly to the Doomguy's Ballista, essentially combining the Doomguy's Plasma Rifle and Ballista together. As mentioned before, the Reaper also appeared in Doom Eternal with the Demonic Troopers holding it in Amora. They did basically nothing in that game. I don't know why they were there. So if this did return, perhaps the Doom Marine could pick it up in a ruined Amora level. That would be pretty damn cool, I think, going back to Amora but having it all destroyed and decayed. Moving on, we have the Soul Cube. You knew it was coming. Much the same as in Doom 3, the Soul Cube would be a homing weapon that would leech life off of other demons and restore it back to you. But making it more interesting, it wouldn't be a weapon, but a utility, taking the place of the Flame Belch and restoring armor. This version of the Soul Cube will be significantly weaker than its Doom 3 counterpart, but again, I'm trying to make these weapons be an alternative to the Doom guy. If you could imagine yourself doing a second playthrough of Doom Eternal with a different character, you'd kind of hope they had a slightly different loadout of weapons, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. So you'd be able to do the same things that the Doom Slayer can do, just using different weapons and changing older weapons to give them new functions, like in the case of the Soul Cube. So if I see any comments saying that's not how the Soul Cube works, I know I'm trying to make it different. So By all means, criticize me, give me criticism, because that's how I grow, that's how these ideas can flourish, but this is meant to be different, so chill. Just calm down. It's okay. And finally, super weapons. No Doom game is complete without a super weapon, and the Doom Marine, I believe, should have access to an Argent Crucible and the Unmaker, allowing the Slayer to have the BFG and Sentinel Hammer. This is so that when, or if, both the Doom Marine and the Doom Guy are in the same area at the same time, one can be using 2 super weapons that are really cool, and the other can be using another 2 super weapons that are really cool. This weapon set as a whole could serve as a nice basis for an interesting playstyle that is similar enough to the Doom Guy but also helps with the gameplay flow, and then when incorporated into a co-op style, could be a unique take on the single player playstyle. If you're liking this idea so far, but are a little confused on everything, wondering how there even can be 2 Doom Guys, please watch this video here explaining the basis of everything I am discussing in this video here. I put a lot of work into it, and I'd really appreciate if you checked it out and supported the channel in any way you can. If you don't have much time on your hands to watch another FooSarr video, that is okay. I'll briefly summarize how this is all possible. What it boils down to is the Doom Guy and the Doom Marine are the only 2 survivors from Doom 1. However, the events of Doom 3 aren't entirely true, and at the end of Doom 3 the Doom Marine is found unconscious, leading to a running theory of mine that he is an unreliable narrator. If this is the case, it would make most of Doom 3 not canon, but allowing for Doom 3 characters and demons like the Maledict to return, which is another thing that should happen in this next Doom game, by the way. One thing that should absolutely be focused on is the human element. Since the Doom Guy is off defeating gods and ruining dimensions like Urdak, it would make room for a much more grounded story if the Doom Marine was situated on Earth for most of the game, helping and rescuing the people of Earth and showing the audience how literally anybody survived the invasion of Earth in Doom Eternal. Like, just for a second, just break away from this for a second. Imagine you're just some dude going about your day job and all these imps start charging through into your workplace and throwing your documents all over the place and killing everybody, and then a Megidus shows up. How are you just a regular old dude surviving that? So that's kind of what I'm getting at with this. Showing a more emotional story through the Doom Marine and telling a down-to-earth, human-focused story could become something compelling to drive the Doom Marine's character arc and keep players far more interested in the Doom narrative as a whole. Going forwards in Doom, it seems the Slayer will be doing one giant feat after another, so seeing the ripples of what he does, the consequences of his actions through the eyes of the Doom Marine, could give the audience an alternative view on the mostly mindless mission you have to complete, and expand the story to far greater lengths and interest the more mature people of the audience too. The protagonist of Doom talking is a question that crops up when we look at a sequel to Doom Eternal. Since the Slayer has some dialogue in Doom Eternal, some people may think that that means he's gonna have to have a speaking role going forwards, but I think instead of this, a non-verbal communication would be far more entertaining. For example, the Doom Guy and the Marine both split up and reunite after a long time. They are about to fight a great threat, but before doing so, they size each other up, showing the other the biggest guns that they've collected. The Marine shows off his Soul Cube and the Slayer pulls out the BFG. The Marine pulls out his Unmaker and the Slayer ignites his Sentinel Hammer. Then the Marine ignites his Crucible and they both nod and begin walking to take out the next big threat together. This exchange would require no dialogue, but would speak 1,000 words. It would be funny and in the spirit of Doom, and give you just a natural last laugh before fighting a story-driven boss together. It would just be badass. Since we're discussing a hypothetical sequel, the possibility of walking through the aftermath of Doom Eternal comes to mind. If any of you remember the cancelled Doom 4 game, where you play as a more regular human type character and just try to survive, then this is a similar concept based off of that. Credit where it's due, This section of the video was inspired by Sniff, a viewer of the channel who regularly comments on my videos with very detailed, in-depth comments that I really appreciate seeing and having a back and forth with, so thank you, Sniff. And thank you to everyone who comments. I love talking to you guys in the comments, so leave a comment now. Tell me your favorite character in the entire Doom series that isn't the Doom guy. But this comment in particular stemmed from a community post about Doom Eternal's story where Sniff mentioned the cut content from Doom 64, mentioning that Egypt at some point was planned as an area for that game. This got me thinking, what if you got to explore Earth as a whole, either as the Doom guy or the Doom Marine, and see how each of the major countries or continents survived or dealt with the demonic invasion? Or even how places like the entire Australasian region were completely unaffected and demons didn't even go near it. Ultimately, my biggest takeaway from this concept is building a separate co-op driven campaign where the Doom Guy and Doom Marine team up to defeat demons to save humanity. Using their unique skills, it could make for some very interesting level design and teamwork that honestly has never been seen in the Doom games before, and could prove to be the next logical step going forwards for the series. But since Doom has been a single-player first experience since the very beginning, an option to swap between each of the protagonists would make the co-op campaign doable in a single-player setting. Or as an alternative to this, there could be a split campaign for the game, where you alternate between either the Doom Guy or the Doom Marine, or after you finish the Doom Guy's entire story in the campaign, a second story unlocks with the Doom Marine in it. Either way, I'd really like the idea of playing around with two protagonists going on two separate journeys, eventually culminating in a grand finale, where you, I don't know, take down the Dark Lord again. Who knows? We will never know what the next Doom game truly holds until it's upon us, so let's speculate in the comments or on my Foo Fanatics Discord server linked below and create some truly interesting concepts together. There's a lot to discuss when looking towards the future of Doom, and I think this video is a good place to start. The name is FooSarr. Let me know what you thought of this entire concept, this video as a whole, and please always remember to stay safe and creative. Thanks for watching.